Thanks. You know, we've known each other for a while, and I know your children and I have been just enormously impressed with their values, their lifestyles, and you did a great job raising them. How did you do that? Everybody here loves their kids, and you mentioned about creating an environment where we can pass our businesses down to our children, basically tax-free or something close to that. What did you do with your children to make them so responsible and so involved in everything that you do?
Well, I'm fortunate in that, you know, they're smart children. Many of you have smart, and some will have some that aren't so smart, and you have to understand that happens too, and that's all, and you're going to love them just as much. But, you know, I have smart children, and they've been good academically, et cetera, et cetera. But very importantly, I would always tell them, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. No drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. And they'd go out, and Ivanka would say, Dad, stop telling me that. I said, I'm going to tell it to you every time I see you. I'm going to drive you wild with this. You're going to, no drugs, no alcohol. And I would say that. And I hope that, because who knows, right? But they don't have any of those problems. I mean, I've seen friends, very smart people, they have smart kids, but their kids get hooked on drugs or they get hooked on alcohol. Alcohol is, in many ways, like they tell me, I don't know. I never had a glass of alcohol. I had a brother who was a wonderful guy, but he had an alcohol problem. And he started to do the same. He said, don't ever drink alcohol. And he smoked, and you know, I put cigarettes in that same category, almost that same category, but they're certainly not good for you. But I would always tell my kids, because I've seen parents that had brilliant children, went to the best schools, they were great, but they got hooked on drugs or alcohol, and they never made it. They couldn't compete, basically. You know, they never made it, and many of them are dead. Many of them die. They die with this fentanyl that's coming in. I'm going to get that problem. I had that problem almost solved with President Xi, by the way, and I said, you have to impose the maximum penalty, or we're not going to, you know, I would always talk about trade. We have the power of trade. And I said, well, we're just not going to get along on trade. Hence, I could do things like we talked about. I don't want to go into it, but we can do things. And he and I had a handshake on, he was going to impose the maximum penalty on people that run companies that sell us through Mexico, almost all of it comes through Mexico. And the maximum penalty is the death penalty. And he was going to impose that. And then we had the transfer power. And this guy came in, and he didn't know what to do with anything. And so that went down the tubes. But one of the first things I'm going to do is talk to him about that, because they were going to give the death penalty to anybody sending fentanyl into this country. And that would have really solved a lot of the problem. And the other thing I say, and it's not nice to settle like saying it, but, you know, I've seen a lot of countries. I deal with all of them, and I know that all of them. And the only ones that don't have a drug problem are the ones that have the death penalty. We can set up all of our blue ribbon committees. Everybody calls me. You would call me. My friends call me. Could I be on that blue ribbon committee? And they'd have a blue ribbon committee on drugs and how to stop, you know, these drug lords who are very smart people, very, very vicious, very smart. And we'll have these people from New York, some dilettantes, and they didn't want to talk about it. They just want to be a part of, you know, whatever it is. The only ones that stop drugs, the only ones, are the ones that have the death penalty. And you have to remember, it sounds horrible, but what's more horrible is what they do to our country, because on average, he or she, male or female, drug dealer, will kill 500 people. And that doesn't include the families that are devastated. I know families that lost a son or lost a daughter. They've never been the same. I mean, they're like different people. You know, you talk to them, and they're just, years later, I say, has it gotten better? No, it's gotten worse, they tell me. And there's nothing worse than that, and nothing worse than that. And it's because of drugs. It's because if you know, maybe it's too much for the American people to go with, but I will say this, the only countries that solve their drug problem, China, I went to President Xi, I said, so, first time I met him, I said, do you have a drug problem? No, 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 no. 1.4 billion people. And why don't you have a drug problem? He says, death penalty, quick trial. What's a quick trial? The dealer is immediately put on trial. They don't have 9 years of legal and then another 9 years of appeals, 22 years later, and then they're released. No, this is, they don't play games, and, it's a tough deal. But he said, quick trial. I said, what is quick trial? Immediate trial. And you know what the drug dealers do? They say, hey, let's get the hell out of here fast. They don't play games. They don't play games. They even send the bullet to the family, and they make them pay for the bullet. They make them pay for the bullet. It's vicious, but they have no drug problem. With 1.4, they had a drug problem for centuries, with the poppy fields, with all the things. But countries were taking them over that were much smaller. They were being decimated because everybody they had a tremendous drug problem. But it stopped years ago, and it was the death penalty. And I can tell you, we could set up all the committees, blue ribbon, and was headed by so-and-so, a society person from Madison Avenue. But I will tell you that it's a waste of time. The only thing that's going to stop, and we got it down. I got it down 19%. That's great, but but it's not like I got it done, and we worked like hell. We had so much security in the border. We had the German Shepherds. There's a certain dog, a certain type of German Shepherd. So they have millions of dollars worth of machinery, and they have a dog, and it's a certain German Shepherd. Some of you know what it is. It has a sense of smell that's so incredible that the machine is nothing by comparison, nothing. And it's incredible to see. I mean, incredible. But we watched it very closely on the border. We had a lot of dogs that did this incredibly well. And we had a lot of very expensive machinery that did it good, not great, but they did it good, not nearly as good, believe it or not. And we had it down about 19%, and that was it. It was very tough. With the death penalty, you would eradicate drugs in this country. But and I talk about it a lot. I say that because maybe people have to get used to it because it sounds harsh. But when you think of it, if they do kill on average 500 people, everybody in this room knows a lot of people that they lost a child or sometimes a father or mother, but they've lost a child to fentanyl. And that wouldn't have happened if we had the death penalty. But the country's going to have to tell us that they're ready for it because, it's a pretty big step.